as you guys are talking about bullpen arms, one of the names that has come up, and I know Mopar mentioned him in the chat, Jazz Chisholm Jr., because I know Bob Nightingale did report that Jazz Chisholm Jr., there's some implications he might be next to be moved.
I just assume that
from the
whole
Marlins.
roster is up for grabs.
Peter Bendix, said that they're refusing to commit on whether they're going to keep him for the remainder of the year. And there have been a number of teams that have been brought up in the mix for who Jazz Chisholm could be going to. The Kansas City Royals are one of the favorites for him. He is making just $2.6 million this year with 2 additional years of arbitration in 2025 and 2026. The Phillies were also brought up in that conversation. The Cubs, the Royals, the Phillies, as a potential landing spot for Jazz Chisholm to move.
I don't think that makes sense.
I don't either, but here's the deal that was listed as one of the landing spots for the 26-year-old. So for the Phillies, it was mentioned because of, at the time, of course, Nick Castellanos did definitely get going this weekend a lot more, but saying that one of the weak spots has been in the outfield, and you could potentially try to move Nick Castellanos or Johan Rojas to be able to slot Jazz Chisholm Jr. in. That is a deal with how many injuries Jazz has had, and just the fact that it's not a necessary move that I would not want the Phillies to take. I think Jazz is one of those guys that he's flashy, he's fun, he's a household name, he jumps off the page, but he's not a necessity for the Phillies right now.
I don't think that makes any sense.
Nope, I don't think
I don't think it's easy to move Nick Castellanos. You're not going to give something up to get rid of him when he shows you over the last week or so what his potential can be. I don't think the Phillies are going to give up anything to get rid of him. So, I don't think that makes any sense.
Now, this came out prior to the weekend series, just to clarify that, make sure you... But it doesn't matter, because regardless, between the contract that Nick is under and also just the fact that this is not a move that even makes sense for the Phillies, the area of concern is not the outfield as much. It is more of bullpen arms. But
Mopar says platoon with Rojas. I mean, maybe come playoff time, it makes you a better team, but I don't see the Phillies adding to this roster in a position.
The thing is, who do you move to bring in Jazz Chisholm Jr.?
Do you mean move in terms of who do you trade, or who's off the roster? Because there's an obvious answer to who's off the roster.
They are looking for, the trade for
Luis
Arias was a lot of prospects.
You're probably talking about a top 6 or 7 prospect. So, I mean, are you going to trade a Justin Crawford for Jazz Chisholm for a half a year? No.
Well, it would be... You got arbitration left, too. So it would be...
have an arbitration year left?
2 years left.
Yeah, 2025 and 2026.
I mean,
do you move?
So you would think if you made the move, hypothetically speaking, you made the move, Jazz Chisholm would fill the Whit Merrifield role for the next 2 years after this season. Jazz has some pop. He's
a good player.
Jazz has a little bit of pop. He's going to hit about 250. He's going to steal a handful of bags. His downside is he strikes out a lot. His OBP is not particularly high. He doesn't walk a ton. He's only walked 34 times is the most he's walked in his career. So there's some positives, there's some negatives. The contract is the kind of contract that Dave Dombrowski values because of the fact that there is that team control with arbitration for a couple of seasons. Jazz Chisholm objectively would make the Phillies bench better. I am not sure.
But I don't think you trade for.
I'm not sure you're trading a top prospect for a bench piece.
Yeah,
right,
I don't.
Right.
If you're going to trade, because you agree, it's going to take probably a top 7 prospect to get him.
I mean, last season,
so you're not doing that for,
as you mentioned,
a non-starter.
In 97 games last season, he had 19 home runs, split for 250, 304, 457. He is young at just 26. So as you talk about, Tyler, could be a piece that is that utility guy, but what you're going to give up in place for him at this point of the season is unnecessary. It's
just give me
that's not a glaring hole. I know in the chat you guys are talking about it. Dave P is on one today. Dave, I don't know who peed in your cereal this morning, but I feel like you're in there
It's not kink shame in 2024.
Okay. I feel like you're woke on the wrong side of the bed. But
I need some more coffee too, Dave.
It is definitely something that we've been seeing for Jazz mentioned with a number of teams. And of course, naturally, the Phillies got thrown in the loop because
we take all the bait here in
Bleacher
Philadelphia.
Report put out this piece and listed all the top teams and had, of course, the Phillies top 5 for a landing spot. But I don't think it's a necessity. I think as it's much more needed, as we just saw in the loss Sunday, to bring in a bullpen arm.
Yeah, stupid trade scenarios make me want to grab a Miller Lite because sometimes they make my head hurt.